Bloody Elbow presents the MMA Vivisection, the show that gives you a comprehensive breakdown and expert analysis of all the fights happening on this weekend's UFC card. Here are your hosts, Zane Simon and Connor Rebush.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the MMA Vivisection with me, Zane Simon, and my co-host, as always, Connor Rebush. We're here once again talking about this week's UFC card. UFC on ESPN 30, UFC Vegas 35, Tough 29 finale. Barboza, headlined by a featherweight bout, Edson Barboza versus Giga Chikadze. And we actually have a pretty fun and interesting batch of prelim bouts to talk about after a main card that is pretty forgettable, quite frankly.
Yeah, I mean, it speaks to why the prelims seem more exciting when you consider that remove all of the tough finalist fights on the main card, and it too would be, well, first of all, mercifully short.
Oh, yeah.
It's the 6-fight monstrosity. But otherwise, much more interesting. It's really the tough fights that are dragging this thing down.
Yep. So let's talk about our featured prelim bout, Alessio Di Chirico, Abdul Razak Al Hassan. And are you as surprised as I am that Al Hassan is still in the UFC?
Not necessarily.
No.
Why are you so surprised? Just because he's lost 3 in a row?
Lost 3 in a row. They were all decisive losses. They were progressively uglier losses. Yeah. Well, the Munir Lizez fight was not decisive. I'll say that. That was actually close. You missed weight in 2 out of the 3.
Well, yeah, there is that. I think he's exactly the kind of fighter they like to have around, though.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely, riding that sort of Mike Perry vibe of awesomely powerful and amazingly foolhardy.
Yeah. He's a completely one-note fighter, but that one note is like quadruple bass boosted. It's very loud. Yeah. You can't ignore it. And if you're his opponent, like the brown note, it makes you shit your pants. I'm sorry. I don't know what to make of this, to be honest. I mean, I guess my basic read is... Well, Alessio Di Chirico beat Oluwale Bongboj back in 2017, who's like a meathead brawler. He can probably do it again.
Yeah, he beat Joaquin Buckley. Like,
Buckley's a way better fighter than Al Hassan.
Well, yeah, that's my point. You know,
I'm just looking for an exact like stylistic parallel as close as I can get.
Sure.
And Bongboj and Al Hassan are both like thoughtless messes as fighters.
Yeah,
very exciting.
The big thing with Di Chirico has largely been that you have to have a process to beat him.
Mm-hmm.
It can be as simple as Zach Cummins being like a, swing and cling takedown kind of or pressuring fighter. Mm-hmm. It can be as simple as Mahmoud Muradov just having a jab he leans on. It can be even as messy as Kevin Holland and Holland's ability to just throw hard 1-2 combinations and then clinch up. As long as there's some sort of set of skills that you're bringing over and over, there's a path to beating Alessio Di Chirico, which kind of made, honestly, his win over Joaquin Buckley that much more impressive.
Right.
Because Buckley, to me, would have been exactly the kind of fighter that tends to beat Alessio Di Chirico.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing. Like, sometimes Di Chirico will just pull something out.
Yeah. On the flip side, Buckley or Al Hassan feels like exactly the kind of fighters that tend to lose to him.
Mm-hmm.
You can say Buckley's way better, but Julian Marquez, Oluwale Bongboj, Gareth McClellan, like... Yep. Even guys who have a lot of power, who can hurt somebody, who can, make something happen in the cage. Di Chirico he's not easy to knock out. He's never been knocked out, in fact.
No.
And he has a well-developed functional game everywhere. He's a good counter puncher. He can throw a jab. He can hit a takedown. He can work from top control. That if you're not bringing the consistency to the fight, he will. It won't be exciting. He rarely takes over anything, but he will win a consistent fight if he needs to.
Frequently leaves it dangerously close,
Yeah.
Both the McClellan and Marquez fights were splits, but yeah. He can neutralize or largely neutralize meatheads.
Yep. And so, I got to pick him here. Especially with Al Hassan is very much the absolute definition of the fighter that comes to the UFC, surprises the hell out of everyone, runs out a few huge wins, and then suddenly everybody's like, oh, wait, I can figure out how to beat you, and then stops winning entirely. Like, it's just like, oh, okay, you throw really hard from one side of your body, otherwise you get in these wild 50-50 brawls. If I just avoid those two things, I don't have to fight you.
Right.
To the point that even somebody like Jacob Malkoun, who seems like a pretty underwhelming middleweight athlete and a relative UFC newcomer, was just like, I'm just going to sit and I'm just going to dive on takedowns the whole time. And what are you going to do? So Alessio DiCirico.
Yep.
Always a chance this could. Yeah, that's about pretty much it. Chances could be his first knockout loss, but I certainly wouldn't bet on it. DiCirico opens at -155, dropped down to -231, currently -230. Al Hassan opened at +125, jumped up to +183, is currently +186. That brings us to a middleweight bout: Sam Alvey, Wellington Turman. And if DiCirico Al Hassan was an easy fight to call, this is a very hard fight to call.
For none of the right reasons.
For none of the right reasons. So Sam Alvey is, I feel bad for him at this point, which is hard for me because I really, he is fingernails on a blackboard to my psyche.
You've hated him since day one. Day one.
The rictus grin, the style that is entirely not based on winning fights at all.
Yep.
The dedicated idea that he's like this super fun dude. I don't know. It just all, it all grates on me. But I'm at the point where I really feel bad for him because if anything has come to me, he has appeared out of his fights with Ryan Spahn, Da Un Jung, and Julian Marquez. It's that I think he is actually trying to find ways to win.
Yeah.
He really seems like he is trying to force the issue more. He's trying to lead more. He's trying to create knockouts more than he used to, where he would just try to make he would trap people to come to him. He'd be Tyron Woodley out there trying to get everybody to walk into him. And that, for him, that lead hook that nobody sees coming because they're way too focused on his rear hand. But the thing is that people are at least aware enough of Sam Alvey at this point, and have been for a while now, that it's incredibly hard for him to make any of his tools work. And because he still always starts his fights on the back foot against the cage, even though he's working his way off the cage more and trying to throw more and trying to create more, he's always starting from a point of losing the fight.
Yeah.
Always. That said, Wellington Turman is in dire straits and fights the exact kind of fight that Alvey can win.
Yeah. He has none of the right strengths that have even in this late period have been the thing that beats Sam Alvey.
Yeah, because Turman's whole thing has been brawling his way inside and then trying to out-wrestle people. And he's not a great wrestler, so he's not winning those battles with the frequency he did on the Brazilian regional scene.
Yep.
And it turns out he does not have a good chin. So the brawling part is increasingly dangerous.
Although I think he could be one of those cases where he turns out to have a perfectly fine chin. but he's so uncomfortable striking that he just flinches his way into knockouts.
That could happen.
Because I noted, I think the last time we talked about Turman, that he's shown some improvement and some nice intermediate skills of striking against Andrew Sanchez. He found some nice counters, like when he was either confident enough to go for the right counterpunch or was scared into it. It frequently worked.
Yeah,
but he's not confident.
No.
He brawls out of necessity, not because it's what he wants to do.
Yeah. And the thing with Sam Alvey is that wrestling him is really honestly not usually the right answer. No. It is usually the consistently easiest way for him to get that lead hook to work. Mm-hmm. Because he can pound on you and stuff takedowns, and then you stand up and you want to reshoot, and that's when you start getting clipped.
He's sort of Derek Lewis-y, you look at him and you're
very
like,
Derek Lewis.
It's hard not to think you could take him down. He's like flat-footed. His knees are locked out half the time. His feet
up against
are close.
The cage. He can't back up and he can't sprawl out of the shot.
Feet are close together, but he's just very comfortable beating wrestlers.
Yeah, I mean, he came up fighting Dan Henderson all the time.
Right. Team Quest, man. He's got great defensive wrestling. He'll find his whizzer. He'll threaten a guillotine. Yeah. It's just not easy.
And so am I picking Sam Alvey to win this fight? All Wellington Turman has to do is stay long, throw kicks and jabs. And that's it. Just don't press the fight. Let Sam Alvey take himself out of it. Uh-huh. But I don't think he's gonna.
Well, it could be that fight where Turman turns that corner.
Yeah, it could, but I kind of have to see it.
Yeah. I'm kind of with you. I take more genuine delight in picking Sam Alvey because I have some perverse fondness for him.
Yeah.
But I am also enjoying how much you are hating.
I mean,
talking yourself into picking him.
It really, he is my least favorite kind of fighter in every way.
He's awful. I still like him for some reason. I sympathize with you. He's terrible.
Yeah,
he's so bad to watch.
he is absolutely just. You take Spike Carlisle and you remove everything fun about Spike Carlisle. Yeah, and you're just left with the raw Spike Carlisle-ness.
Yep. Yep. Even down to the way he spells his nickname. That's maybe one of the worst things about Sam Alvey.
Yeah.
It's Smile in Sam for some reason. Well, both picking Sam Alvey.
Yeah.
Winless since 2018. Has lost 5 of his last 6, and the 6th was a draw.
Yeah.
All right. God, this is the main event of the
Hey, at least we have, for all the people who are going to mock us relentlessly in the comments, they did that last week about us picking Clay Guida over Marco Madsen. Mm-hmm. And I mean, sure, we were wrong, but we weren't wrong for the reason that everybody thought we would be wrong.
What did they think was going to happen?
They thought that Marco Madsen would just out wrestle and masterclass Clay Guida.
Idiots.
Exactly.
Surely anybody who knew what they're talking about would have predicted that he was going to cleanly out jab him.
Yeah.
That was obvious.
So at least we have that to lean on. That,
yeah.
When we are making the kind of picks that people ridicule us for, we're usually not that wrong.
We're wrong, but not in the way you think we are.
Yeah. Nobody thought that Marco Madsen was going to develop a jab.
No.
All right.
So Sam Alvey's going to lose by being out wrestled.
Yeah, he's going to lose by being out wrestled. That's probably exactly what's going to happen. Or he's going to get knocked out.
Well, that does kind of happen more often these days.
But it would be weird for Wellington Turman to do it.
True, that's true.
Turman is the favorite. I get it, but opened at -110, dropped to -145, got down as low as -155, but he's currently back up at -136. That line's got to close. It just does. Turman is not the dude.
Yeah.
Alvey opened at -110, jumped up to +125, and is currently back down at +111.
Yeah, I totally get picking against Sam Alvey.
Oh, yeah, no, you fade Sam Alvey all day here, especially if you have Turman at like some reasonably close odds. I get it. You're going to be like, oh, no, I'm not picking Sam Alvey. But this is an eminently winnable fight for him.
Yeah.
And unlike Julian Marquez, who got really pissed off at me for saying that he could fight the absolute wrong fight and still beat Sam Alvey, I do not believe that of Wellington Turman.
Right. How dare you say that? There's no such thing as a wrong fight. I'm Julian Marquez, the greatest fighter on the planet.
Yeah.
Renowned coxman, ladies man. Really, really good at talking to women.
All right. Not even going to pick that up at this point. Middleweight, or that brings us to a light heavyweight bout. Dustin Jacoby, Darren Stewart, and man, if Kevin Lee going back to middleweight or back to welterweight feels like a bad idea.
Yeah.
I am really not convinced by Darren Stewart going back up to light heavyweight.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? Maybe he'll be really fast.
Yeah.
I don't know. It does seem like so much of the success he did have at middleweight was due to his like titanic physical strength.
Mm-hmm.
And that's no longer going to be quite so imposing, which is a shame because like it does seem like an advantage that would be great to have against a guy like Dustin Jacoby.
Yeah. Suddenly you're the 5'11" guy fighting a 6'4" kickboxer with a 78-inch reach.
Who loves to jab and low kick people from long distance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just have to pick Dustin Jacoby. I like Jacoby a lot. I think I like him so much because he's so imperfect.
Yeah, I'm monumentally unsure of him.
Right.
But I can see why that would then draw you to him.
Yeah, that's my type,
Yeah.
And Jacoby's one of those fighters who he doesn't know how good he is. He has like a confidence issue. Where like you could see it in that Iwan Kudalaba fight that, when he was sticking to the right weapons, when he was keeping his feints and his jabs going, and when he was throwing with Kudalaba, he was having tons of success.
Yeah.
But he could not remain committed to that. The entire fight was basically his corner just begging him to do the things that worked every time he did them.
He's still very uncertain of the flexibility of MMA, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very much like, I really don't want to get taken down. I really don't want to have to, engage in these other parts of the fight.
Yeah.
Rather than just being like, oh, well, doing the Israel Adesanya thing, which is very much more of a, I dare you to try.
Mm-hmm. Although he did show, a really nice ability to repeatedly get up after being repeatedly taken down.
No, I think that there's, he's got the skill. It's just that lack of confidence in being in himself, in feeling like, oh, no, that'll be fine. I can handle that.
Right.
When he's striking, there's a hesitancy.
Yes, absolutely. So, Darren Stewart could take advantage of that in much the same way Kudalaba did. He could storm after Dustin Jacoby. He could possibly still get him down several times.
Mm-hmm.
But if Kevin Lee, what if it's not Kevin Lee? What if it's a Kevin Holland who like doesn't actually really get tired? Because Jacoby's, Kudalaba fight, fast paced, lots of defensive wrestling, still reasonably fresh by light heavyweight standards by the end.
Yeah. Well, no, Stewart, the lack of cutting could make him less tired, but a 5'11" light heavyweight, I'm going to imagine, is going to run into that problem of
that too. But I mean, Stewart didn't get tired against Kevin Lee. It was Kevin Lee who got tired, and that partially allowed Stewart into the fight in a barnstorming third round. What if you don't get that opening and the opponent is even bigger than Kevin Holland and does much of the same things?
Yeah.
Plus low kicks.
Yeah.
I got to pick Dustin Jacoby.
There's also the thing for me where Stewart has always seemed like himself a bit of a head case.
Oh, for sure.
He's never been all that comfortable being in fights where he has to exchange with people. He's always trying to rush out of that fight.
Yeah.
And at light heavyweight, I don't know. That just seems like it's going to be that much more fraught.
Yeah. Yeah. He's an incredibly tense fighter.
Mm-hmm.
Which could help let Jacoby off the hook a little bit for his own mental issues.
Yeah, it is weird to think he lost to Eric Anders and then was like, no, I'm going to stay at light heavyweight.
Yeah.
Because Eric Anders is just the size of all the other dudes you're going to fight there.
Well, hey, we criticized Kevin Lee for going back down. I don't know. Was there evidence that Darren Stewart was having a hard time making middleweight?
No. Wait. No, yeah. Darren Wynn missed weight for their fight.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. He had that fight with Kevin Holland. That was his last middleweight fight.
Yeah.
And it was like a really competitive fight. It probably should have been a draw.
Yeah. The only thing I can think of is that maybe during continued COVID restrictions, he's just not. He wants to fight up a division because the Eric Anders fight was at light heavyweight, so maybe he's just trying to not cut in an environment where he's not getting as much training as he normally would.
Yeah, that could certainly be it.
I do also see, though, that he is an avid dancer and a student of contemporary dance.
Nice.
And a salsa dancing champion. So I have to imagine that fitness is not a difficulty for him.
No. Also makes you wonder about his footwork.
He does.
That stuff doesn't transfer as well as I've been led to believe.
Yeah, no, you would think that would really help.
Doesn't fight like a salsa dancer. There's no Cuban boxing in him.
No.
Well, good for him though. I very much like the image of Darren Stewart doing contemporary dance.
Yeah. No, I respect it. Darren Stewart is the underdog here. Opened at plus 150, jumped up to plus 170. He's currently down at plus 147. I didn't even talk about this fight, did I really? Yeah. I mean, you covered most of my basic points.
That's fine.
Mostly that it's a size thing, honestly. I don't see what a 5'11" light heavyweight is going to be. To his credit, he has more the archetype of what works at light heavyweight, which is being fast and strong.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a division of huge dudes. It's a division of heavyweights who aren't confident enough to be heavyweights, but are all the athletes that would normally compete at heavyweight, but they realize that that's a sucker's bet to be, what's the point of being a fast, strong, powerful dude when you're going to fight some 300-pound oaf who just swings a sledgehammer at you and can break your skull?
Mm-hmm.
There's no upside to that. No upside to being a Yuri Prochazka and then going and fighting Francis Ngannou.
No.
Why?
Yeah. Maybe fight Parker Porter or somebody.
Yeah, but even then, you go up and you be Yuri Prochazka and just get beat by frickin' Derek Lewis. Where's the glory in that?
God, the idea of Derek Lewis beating Prochazka is very funny,
isn't it? But that's what heavyweight convinces all of these people to be light heavyweight. Well, there's no reason for Yuri Prochazka to be a light heavyweight physically.
Yeah, really,
But
it's true. If he believed in himself, he probably could very easily go up and beat Derek Lewis.
And he might someday. The dude has some insane energy, but it's not dad energy. It's actual insanity. Yeah. Which I don't know that translates all that well to heavyweight.
I don't know what kind of relative energy Yuri Prochazka has.
Yuri Prochazka has very big. I haven't seen him blink for 4 minutes at a time.
He's got like neurotic family dog energy. He's not even really a member of the family. I don't know.
He's got guy that shows up to all the barbecues but has never been invited energy.
I guess. Yeah, not related. It's just there to eat free food.
Yeah, just shows up and you're just like, I'm not going to ask him to leave.
Look at his hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, talking about Darren Stewart, on the feet, he's kind of a flat-footed brawler, and he tends to just want to push fights off the feet as fast as possible, crash into people, create takedowns, and then work a top game. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that might work against Dustin Jacoby, but he's struggled at middleweight to keep people down and to get people down regularly because he's not like an expert wrestler. So yeah, I just gotta pick Jacoby here as well. Odds on Jacoby. He is the favorite, open at -175, dropped to -200, and is back up at -178. So some late money coming in on Stewart for this fight. That brings us to a women's flyweight bout. JJ Aldrich, Vanessa Demopoulos. And this is, in some ways, this is just kind of one of those like automatic picks for JJ Aldrich just because she's exactly the kind of fighter we both like. Kind of things. Mm-hmm. Where it's like, oh yeah, no, she can wrestle pretty decently. She's got surprisingly clean boxing. And she's just not a very good athlete, so she's always going to have to struggle, and I'm instantly endeared. You know? And Demopoulos on the flip side seems like a bodybuilding model who's decided to take up MMA on like a whim and really probably could be pretty good, but is focused on playing some sort of late 90s meathead version of MMA where she just wades in with her chin up, swinging as hard as she can to see what she can make happen. Real heavy Alexandra Albu vibes.
Yes. Very much so.
She hits hard. She's got physicality. If she keeps actually learning, then she could probably be a pretty decent stiff test. But she's also, I think, mostly a straw weight, if I'm not mistaken. Taking this fight on short notice up a division. Let me check here. Yeah, her last 3 bouts are all strawweight bouts. In fact, her whole career has been at strawweight.
Her last fight was a catchweight.
Yeah, okay, she's had a couple catchweight bouts. I'm not sure if that was on her behalf or her opponent's, but most of her career has been a career strawweight. And really, this just seems to me like a lot like the Corey McKenna fight, where McKenna's not a great athlete, but has a little craft and can hit regular takedowns and was just able to take Demopoulos down at will and seal every round with lots of top control because Demopoulos is very willing to play guard. So I have to take Aldrich here.
Yeah, same. Aldrich is a good fighter.
Yeah.
You know, in a way that Demopoulos simply isn't. Yeah. The wrestling is absolutely part of it, but Aldrich, and it'll probably end up being a major part of it because Aldrich doesn't necessarily have the confidence.
Yeah, she's not a great athlete, and she's not a confident striker. once her opponent realizes that she doesn't hit that hard, then she loses a lot of confidence when people start swinging back at her.
Yeah. And I think part of it is also like, I don't know how much of this, whether it's the mentality causing the physical issue or the other way around. But some of it is she does seem to like gas. I think she just goes in trying to be too intense, like trying to match this bar of the superior athlete.
Yeah.
That was definitely the feeling in her fight with, was it Marina Rodriguez?
You mean
Sabina Mazo?
Oh, Sabina Mazo. Okay.
Yeah, I get them mixed up because they're both tall Muay Thai people. That was definitely the feeling of that fight, where Aldrich, like, she was having no trouble whatsoever landing her left hand and countering early. And it was just like if she could have just eased up and not made every shot a big power punch, she could have held on to that momentum. So she does struggle with that, but I don't think Demopoulos is as like consistent as a fighter like Sabina Mazo, where she doesn't have this feeling of constantly working her way forward in the fight. She's just in there like doing the same stuff.
Yeah.
Getting outstruck, getting out wrestled. So yeah, it's hard not to pick Aldrich.
Yep. Odds on the bout. Demopoulos is a heavy underdog, opened at plus 185, jumped up to plus 275, currently plus 288. Aldrich opened at minus 220, dropped to minus 350, is currently minus 376. That brings us to a featherweight fight. Great featherweight fight, honestly.
You think so?
Yeah, of relative unknowns, I would say this is a really well booked. Like these dudes are both championship fighters on the regional level, and I'm fascinated to see how they face off against one another.
Yeah, I guess for whatever reason Jamal Emmers hasn't gotten his hooks in me yet. I feel like I just have a better like first glance sort of read on a guy like Sabatini.
Well, that's because Emmers he grew up as a wrestler and has crafted him. He's a lot like, and much less slick, but a lot like Bobby Green, which is somebody who grew up as a wrestler and is turning themselves into a boxer in MMA. And so most of his functional MMA game is mid-range boxing. And he can be outstruck there by better strikers. But he's actually otherwise, like by most, for most run-of-the-mill fighters, I think he's pretty tough to beat on the feet. And then he changes things up with the occasional pretty decent takedown game with some top control when he needs it. But it's always deep in the back pocket kind of stuff. Yeah.
The other thing that throws me about this, that makes me not necessarily super excited. I don't know who's going to be the aggressor in this fight.
I would say Emmers, probably.
I think, yeah, between the two of them, Sabatini very much likes to draw people onto shots.
Yeah.
But I don't think Emmers likes running onto shots. He's pretty measured as an aggressor. I
think you're making, I guess it's for you to lead, but you're making the case for why I'm picking Jamal Emmers, but go for
it. That he's going to be pressuring and that he's measured?
That he's measured and that he won't just walk on to counters.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, I was making it as a case for I'm not as excited for this fight as you. But yeah, I think I agree with that read. Sabatini, like I don't know, like Tristan Connolly is one thing. Yeah. A guy who is just going to recklessly come forward into whatever you're throwing at him. And Sabatini is very much a classic. He's a classic wrestle boxer, except for the preference for back foot fighting.
Yep.
But the switch up is, big cross or big double leg.
Yeah. Tristan Connolly is Yuri Prochazka in like through some sort of Freaky Friday body switch. Like wakes up one day and is just in the body of like an accountant. And still has the exact same insane energy.
Yeah. which is, I guess, in a way ideal for Sabatini.
Yeah.
He's a guy who can't stop what you're doing to him, but is going to give you as many opportunities as possible to do it.
Yeah.
The other thing I'm not sure about, though, is that like Bobby Green, and for obvious reasons, experience, I'm not as sold on Emmers yet. But like Bobby Green, the link between his wrestling and his boxing is not that clean.
Oh yeah, like I say, his wrestling is deep in his back pocket. It is a It is a go-to when all else is failing.
He's a guy who will get put into what looks like a miserable position wrestling-wise, and then eke his way out of it. And you're always like, man, I thought for sure he was going to get taken down or held in that position. How did he get out? I don't know what the benchmark for that failing to other wrestlers is, but Pat Sabatini seems really capable. And if you're going to let Pat Sabatini in on clean shots, again, being more measured, having a variety of strikes and ways to punish takedowns might make those shots harder to find. But if you're going to let Pat Sabatini in super deep on the takedown, then I don't know.
Yeah.
At what point can you not just like give up your back and find a whizzer out of nowhere and slowly work your way back out?
And that's the reason I like this fight.
Sure. Okay. All right. I'm selling myself on it.
Yeah. I think that there's enough variety. Both of these guys are good enough and have quality enough games at what they like to do that it should make for an interesting matchup. Because I do think that Emmers is going to be more likely to be on the front foot and not overextending himself. It might not be a barn burner to that point.
Yeah.
Emmers just, picking off ones and twos, throwing lots of kicks, getting Sabatini to back up and look for big counters. But I think at some point, Sabatini is going to have to come forward and shoot. And the question will be, does his back foot style of striking leave him poorly prepared to make a good shot to me? And that's kind of why I'm picking Emmers, is because I really think a lot of Pat Sabatini's style is made for aggressive people to come to him. And if they don't, we see a lot of fighters in the UFC level. I mean, it becomes really difficult to wrestle if you're, you see like the Tyron Woodley problem, or not Tim Johnson, but the other Johnson, big swinging. Or was that Tim Johnson?
That is Timothy Johnson with the mustache.
No, yeah, but there was the other Johnson who went over to the PFL in the middle of a good UFC run, whose name I can't remember now.
I can't either.
Jordan Johnson, I think it was. Anyway, whatever. But he was a great NCAA wrestler, and he developed this really slick back foot boxing style, and it made every wrestling shot he tried to get become this incredibly difficult journey through open space where he might get cracked really hard. He still had a lot of success with it, but it put himself in a worse position to do it. And I think the lower down you get in weight class, the less likely that success becomes. And so I'm going to pick Emmers here to be just a little too hard to take down and a little too clean technically standing up.
Yeah, I can see that. I am now more interested in this fight. I'll say that much.
Yeah, I think it's a good fight. I think it's a well booked. It's an unknown to fans, but I think, you got two guys who were very capable championship level, like CFFC or, regional East Coast promotions, which tend to honestly be pretty high level in terms of the level of quality that they bring in.
For sure.
So,
what do you think about? Do we get to see Jamal Emmers like absolutely ruthless double collar tie clinch work at all?
I hope so.
That's definitely the most exciting part of his game.
Yeah, I mean, we'll probably see it at least a couple times because Sabatini's going to have to shoot from that far. If he's going to shoot from a long way out,
Yeah.
then he's very likely to end up in the clinch. He's very likely to give Emmers underhooks and give Emmers time to stuff the shot and then want to be up in close, trying to force and readjust the takedown. So that's a great opportunity.
Sure.
Right, I don't know. I like the fight. I think it's a good fight between two dudes who have built very functional games that should match up well together.
Mm-hmm. I'm on board.
Odds on the bout. Sabatini is the underdog here. Opened at plus 125, dropped to minus 110. Is currently up at plus 125 again, though. Money coming in on Emmers. I forgot, are you picking Sabatini for this? Or
no, I'm going to pick Emmers as well.
Okay. And Emmers opening at minus 145, jumped up to minus 110, and has dropped down to minus 151. That brings us to our final fight of the card, Mana Martinez, Guido Canetti. And this is kind of, I don't know. This fight will be fun, but it is not at this point, I don't think it's really a UFC level bout.
Yeah.
Basically. Mana Martinez strikes me as a dude who the best of his skills are always going to be shown against the lowest level of competition. Maybe it's just his look. Maybe it's just the incredibly pasty whiteness and lack of definition that has me feeling like he's just extremely unathletic. But I kind of also feel like Draco Rodriguez showed pretty well with a, kind of unstructured wild man's game that he could just kind of go out and be tough and strong. And Mana Martinez didn't really have anything to match that.
Yeah.
And Guido Canetti is a way better athlete, even at 41. But I'm not picking a 41-year-old bantamweight. Especially one who's starting to get dinged up and who pretty regularly loses and now got knocked out by that Guril Dana in his last fight. And especially not one who tends to lead with a lot of kicks. Canetti loves to just walk in throwing naked kicks.
Yeah.
And Mana Martinez isn't the best athlete out there, but he's got a decently technical striking game with a really good lead hook counter. And that tends to be what he knocks a lot of people out with. That tends to be what is getting him all of these easy knockouts he gets on the regional scene, is that he throws a really mean lead hook.
Yeah.
So I think
that's...
Yeah.
I hate making picks based on single tactical things.
Yeah, I know.
I felt uncomfortable having to do that sort of with the Barboza Chikaze fight.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, maybe this opening. But I have noticed the same thing, that Mana Martinez does have a really crisp, quick left hook, and that is, in fact, what got Guido Canetti knocked out against Dana Batcherel.
And age is especially unkind to lower divisions. Being a great because Guido Canetti, the story of how he has even been in the UFC and won fights is because he's an extremely athletic wild man. Yeah. That is the entire story of this man's incredibly spotty 13-year MMA career with zero notable victories to it.
Yeah.
Is that he's a great athlete, and that just pays fewer and fewer dividends at lower weight classes when you start getting past 35.
Yeah, I mean, the trouble I'm having with this is that I can still very much see Guido Canetti having a better start.
Oh, yeah.
Even if it's just a physicality thing, I still do have the impression, even as a 40-whatever-year-old, that he's a better athlete than Mana Martinez. Come
yeah,
on
like I
out
say,
there.
Martinez, the impression of him, and like I say, it may be just a physical look thing, but I think the general overall truth is that he seems like a guy who has spent his entire life, admittedly, as a martial artist doing martial arts, and is just not a very good athlete.
Yeah, no, he's got
yeah,
quick hands. He's got a lot of nice, efficient technique.
Yep.
It's impossible to escape the impression of him just like being overpowered, though, when somebody gets a hold of him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to take Manny Martinez, even if Canetti does have the worrying thing is that like if Canetti has a strong start, Martinez hasn't exactly demonstrated an ability to come back from rough starts. Like his regional record is pretty much just whooping people in the first round.
Yeah, no, it's true.
So it's kind of up in the air, but at that point, I guess I would just trust the younger man to have the stamina advantage.
Yeah, and the toughness of youth too. A lot of times, young fighters can just get to the point of almost being knocked out and recover in ways that they don't when they're older.
Yeah, it's like a conditioning thing, and conditioning is always better for younger people.
Yeah. So yeah, I just got to take Manny Martinez here.
Yep.
Odds on the bout. Martinez is a heavy favorite. Opened at minus 225, dropped down to minus 362. Is currently minus 292. He does not deserve to be that kind of a favorite. Canetti opened at plus 185, jumped up to plus 282, and is currently down at plus 231. All right. On that note, we're going to wrap it up. You can find me on Twitter at TheZaneSimon. You can find Connor on Twitter at BoxingBush. You can find both of us over at BloodyElbow.com. Give us a like, subscribe to our podcast. Bloody Elbow Presents on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, all that. We'll be back next week for UFC Fight Night, Brunson vs. Till. Thanks, everyone. See you then.
Thank you for listening to this Bloody Elbow Presents production. To check out more of our content, hop over to the Bloody Elbow Presents SoundCloud and iTunes pages, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is also titled Bloody Elbow Presents. We're also on Apple TV, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn, Overcast, Player FM, and Amazon Music. Just search for Bloody Elbow Presents, and you'll get brand new shows throughout the week, including Care Don't Care, The Mookie and Crookie Show, the Best of the Come On Now MMA podcast, Crooklyn's Corner, the MMA Vivisection, the Level Change podcast, Show Money, the 6th Round Post-Fight Show, 6th Round Retro, the MMA Depressed Us, and radio-style play-by-play for every UFC pay-per-view. You can also follow us on Twitter at Bloody Elbow and on Facebook at facebook.com/BloodyElbowBlog, and of course on BloodyElbow.com.